Yeah, I know, it has been a while since I last built a PC on this channel, and to be honest, I kinda miss it actually. So in today's video, I'll share with you a PC build that I intend to use on a separate desk setup that I plan on making early next year. One of my goals next year is to focus more on desk setups, PC builds, accessories more than anything else. And the idea is that I'm going to come up with a blank canvas, pretty much a clean desk that I will use to feature different builds, different accessories, monitors, and pretty much anything that you can put on a desk setup that you can also apply on your own desk setup. And I hope you're in for the ride. Now for this particular build, it will circle around the Galax RTX 3060EX graphics card and the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X processor. We will also feature the Montech AIR 100 ARGB chassis and a bunch of other components which approximately would be around 90,000 pesos. By the way, as promised, I'm giving away the Galax Sonar-03 Gaming Headset that I previously reviewed, and if you're interested to join, watch the entire video. With that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so first things first, this build is not a build guide and was not specifically made with a budget in mind, since most of the components that I have here came from my previous builds and reviews. So this is more like a personal build that you can use as a reference or at least get a thing or two for your own PC build. Don't worry, as I'll definitely include some benchmarks later. So for the chassis, we're going to use the Montech AIR 100 ARGB chassis, which by the way, I'll make a separate video about soon, so make sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. This chassis is a micro ATX chassis that features a detachable front mesh panel, a hinge-type tempered glass side panel, and already includes 4 ARGB case fans out of the box, which is awesome especially considering its price. It is pretty well built too, with an ample amount of cable management space and features. For the graphics card, we're going to use the Galax RTX 3060EX, which features 12GB of memory, good build construction, and a minimal design that should match any PC build. Inside the box, we have a quick user guide, a larger setup guide with easy to understand instructions and illustrations. We also have an RGB cable here, and the Galax RTX 3060EX graphics card itself nicely protected by a substantial amount of foam. As you can tell, this graphics card features a minimal two-tone colorway, which is pretty clean in my opinion. And the build quality feels quite solid as well, with a combination of plastic and metal components. On the front side, we have a couple of translucent fans for that RGB goodness, and flipping it at the bottom side, we can see the heatsink that spans across the entire width of the graphics card. On the other side, we have a single 8-pin power port and a couple of RGB connectors that allows you to sync other components if you're into that. I like the build quality of this graphics card, with an ample amount of robust metal supports all around. Here on this side, we just have a view of the massive heatsink alongside a couple of heat pipes. And on this side, we have all the ports. So we have 3 DisplayPort 1.4a and a single HDMI 2.1 port. And lastly, turning it all over at the back side, we have a full metal backplate with a good amount of ventilation channels. All in all, a decent looking graphics card I would say. Now we're gonna partner it with an AMD Ryzen 7 5800X, which has 8 cores and 16 threads. I chose this for a good balance between price and performance. For our cooling solution, we're going to use a budget CPU cooler from ID Cooling, the SE224XT, which should be enough as it supports up to 180 watts TDP. I will replace the CPU cooler fan though with an ID Cooling DF12025 and use another 2 for the top exhaust to match the ARGB case fans of the Montech AIR 100. Now for storage, I'm going to use a 1TB XPG GameX S50 Lite NVMe SSD, which I already have from my previous build, and is something that you can replace with a less expensive option to cut some cost if necessary. I will also use a 512GB ADATA SU800 SSD for extra storage, but if I had to do this again, I would definitely increase this one to at least 1TB capacity to fit more games. For the memory, we're going to use the XPG Spectrix D60G 16GB 3600MHz kit that I also used on my previous builds. One of the better looking memory kits in terms of RGB lighting, while also being reliable based on my experience. Now we're gonna connect all of these components to the ASRock B550M Pro, a relatively inexpensive motherboard that offers all the bare essentials that I need for this particular build. It might not be as fancy as the B550M Steel Legend and other higher tiered motherboards, but for what it's worth, it is decent enough for my intended purpose. However, where I don't skimp is when it comes to the power supply, as it is one of the most important components of a PC build. That's why I went for the FSP Hydro PTM Pro 750 watts power supply. A highly efficient power supply with 80 plus platinum certification and a fully modular design for easy installation and cable management. It also features an eco mode for a quieter and longer fan lifespan. It's probably way overkill for our build, as I'll show you the total power draw later, but you can never go wrong with a higher headroom power supply for any build as long as you have the budget for it. Alright guys, with all the components introduction out of the way, let's finally cue the build montage. Enjoy! And there you have it guys, building inside the Montech AIR 100 ARGB chassis is surprisingly easy, especially the fact that it already has 4 pre-installed ARGB case fans, and the cables are already connected to the ARGB controller at the back, and most of the front panel cables are already pre-managed as well. All I had to do is install the rest of the components and did the finishing cable management. However, I didn't like the implementation of the top magnetic mesh filter. As you can tell, the holes of the filter don't match the chassis. And apparently, as per the user manual, it should be installed inside in between the case fans and the chassis instead of outside, which I honestly think is a design flaw. So what I did is just place it outside, even though the holes don't match. Besides, it's not really visible, so it's not a total deal breaker for me. I wish they fixed this on future iteration of this model, as I really like how this chassis looks and all the features it has to offer given its price point. If you want to learn more about my build experience with the Montech AIR 100 ARGB chassis, make sure to subscribe as I will make a dedicated video about it soon. Now let's head into our performance benchmarks so that you can have an idea of how this combination of components performs. But before that, like I said earlier, I'm giving away a Galax Sonar-03 Gaming Headset. And to join, like and share this video, of course subscribe to this channel, and comment down below your favorite feature of this build with a hashtag Galax. The winner will be announced on December 1 on our Facebook page, and this giveaway is only for Philippine residents, as I'll be the one who will shoulder the shipping. Now, let's get back to the video. Let me just pop my benchmarking methodology on the screen so that you can have an idea of how I came up with these results, as I believe this is quite important to share with you. Now, it is also important to note that these benchmarks are standalone, just to give you an idea of how this PC build performs, and that you can also, in some ways, compare these results to your current PC build should you choose to upgrade yours in the future. With that being said, let's get into it. So starting with the gaming performance, as you can tell, at 1920 by 1080p resolution, which is my intended purpose for this build, we're getting high frame rates on easy-to-drive esports FPS games such as Valorant, Rainbow Six Siege, and CSGO, even at the maximum possible settings, while also getting pretty decent frame rate on graphics-demanding games, including the Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracing and GTA 5. Thermals are pretty decent as well for the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X, even with a budget ID cooling SE224XT CPU cooler with an idle temperature of just around 42 degrees and an average temperature of around 57 to 69 degrees, maxing out only around the mid-70s. The thermals for the Galax RTX 3060EX are pretty good as well, with an idle temperature of just around 30 to 37 degrees, averages of around 42 to 56 degrees, and spiking only up to 68 degrees. Quite impressive, especially for a dual fan. Now, I also did a quick video export test in Adobe Premiere Pro 2022 using our standard 13.92 minute 4K timeline so that I can have an idea how it performs if in case I choose to use this for video editing as well. And as you can see, 8.13 minutes is not bad at all. Now, here's how this build scores in Cinebench and the popular 3D Mark benchmarks so you can compare it with yours. Thermal performance for the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X on the CPU benchmarks is also pretty good. Granted, it spiked quite high at around 81 to 90 degrees, but if you look closely, during the entire duration of the benchmarks, the average temperature is only around 52 to 74 degrees, which are still pretty good even for the latest Cinebench R23, which runs at a minimum of 10 minutes. I also did some quick crystal disk mark tests for both of our storage devices, and while the write speed of the XPG GameX S50 Lite didn't quite reach its rated speed of 3200 MB per second, the read speed is right around the 3900 MB per second rated speed. The ADATA SU800 512GB SSD, however, is right on par with its specifications of 560 MB per second read and 520 MB per second write. All in all, both of these storage devices are substantially fast for my needs. And lastly, in terms of power draw, using a dedicated watt meter device between the power outlet and the PC, at idle, our PC build only draws around 96 watts, and during load, especially while gaming, it only draws around 303 watts, which is way below our 750 watts power supply, which means we'll definitely benefit on the 80 plus platinum efficiency and that we have a lot of headroom for potential future upgrades. And there you have it, guys. All in all, I'm pretty satisfied with this build. I feel like the performance and features are on par with my expectations and my intended purpose for this build. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Also, please let me know in the comments below what you think about my plans next year, specifically focusing on PC builds, desk setups, and accessories. Huge thanks to all the brands that helped me with the components for this build, especially Galax, ASRock, Montech, ID Cooling, FSP, and ADATA XPG, and I hope I get a chance to build more in the future for you guys. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you like this, and see you next time. Have a great day, guys. You're awesome.